Hello, everyone. This is Jermaine Higgins with Hire GI. Thank you for attending or listening to our webinar about resume writing. As everyone, if you're watching this, you probably are thinking to yourself, man, it is extremely hard to write a resume. And I have to agree with you. Resume writing is very tough, but it could be a lot easier once you understand the concepts of resume writing. But before we get started, let me introduce myself. Again, my name is Jermaine Higgins with Hire GI. I've been in the career coaching for veterans for over 15 years. I've worked overseas in Asia Pacific, managing 18 bases, helping veterans transition into the workforce. Worked in San Diego, where I actually did consulting with the TSA, as well as the veterans on the West Coast, California mainly, primarily. And then now working at Hire GI on 17 different bases, hosting great events, connecting Fortune 500 companies with our transition service members and providing the coaching necessary. But this presentation is going to be very brief. It's not going to go as detailed as you'll probably have with some other resume workshops. The ideal of this is just to kind of highlight key things for you to think about that you can have on your resume when you attend our events. And I would highly recommend you to utilize your resources you have around you, whether it's the base transition office or, Hire Our Heroes has a phenomenal resume writing resource center where they will assist you. I would take advantage of those things and get your resume going. Okay. So resume is an important search tool. The purpose of the resume. So the resume is a tool that's really designed to market you, okay? A resume is basically highlighting your skill sets, telling people who you are, what do you bring to the table. Your resume, or the objective of that, is to basically get you an interview. I think that's the biggest misperception about a resume. A resume does not get you the job. It gets you an interview. And what we want you to understand or think about is that when you apply for a job, you apply based off the job posting that you see, whether it's on Indeed or on hard copy paper. Your resume is designed to tell the employer how you can accomplish those objectives in the job posting. Okay. And it's designed for them to say, wow, this person has the key things that I'm looking for, and then basically get you in the interview so that you can sell yourself in the interview. On a side note, make sure you listen to our webinar about interviewing. It will help you answer some key questions and think about how interviews are hosted. Okay. Now, some basic things, formats for resumes. Okay. So things that you need to be prepared of. Your resume should be 1 to 2 pages. Okay. You'll hear me say this again, but my recommendation is for you to do some research on what is the type of resume that you need to write. And when I say type, meaning if you're going into logistics, how do people in logistics write the resume? Are they short? Are they long? Are they conservative? Are they trendy? Like, for example, marketing may have a lot more color, may have a picture, may have different graphics that show their skill set. Versus a lawyer, maybe 4 pages, right? If you're going federal, maybe 5 pages or 10 pages in some cases. So kind of do some research and figure out what is the proper etiquette or look, if you will, for your industry. Okay, but on an average for everyone, it should be 1 to 2 pages. Make sure that it has good white space, that it looks appealing, that you're not in the margins. You want to have bold, italicized in certain sections. Your font should be 10 to 12. Your font size should be 10 to 12. 8 makes it too small. 14 is too big, right? You want to make sure people can read it. Now, going back a step, one thing I want you to think about with a resume, especially about these formatting pieces, is your resume is not designed to tell me everything. So whenever you get in a situation where you're like, man, you say 2 pages or you say 1 page, but I have 15 years of stuff that I've done, and I want to tell you all of it. you don't need to tell me everything. You just need to tell me the best about you. And you need to tell me, how does everything you've done relate to what I'm looking for? Okay. So it's easy to cut when you put the mindset of what is the best about you that relates. Okay. You want to use resume paper. Anytime you hand your resume to an employer, okay, whether it's in the interview or other ways, you want to make sure it's on resume paper. Resume paper comes in white, ivory, or light gray. I personally recommend ivory because it stands out. Okay. When you write your resume, never use the word I. Okay, in your resume. The other thing is that if you ever pick up resume paper and you put it up to the light, there's usually a watermark there. You want to make sure that when you print your resume that the watermark is facing the right direction, that it's not upside down. Small things, but some employers look at those type of things, especially if you're going into a detail-oriented job. Okay. If you have more than one page, let's say it's 3 pages, I would recommend you putting page numbers, page 2, page 3. But if it's only 2 pages, you don't need page numbers because it's pretty obvious, right? Just something to think about from that perspective. All right. Now, with your resume, people think that your resume, that they'll go and they'll get a resume done and they're like, oh, I'm good. I got a resume. And they just start applying to all these jobs. And they're like, I got a resume, but I don't know why I'm not getting any interviews. One resume does not fit all jobs. Again, the ideal of a resume is to talk about your skill set relating to the job posting. Okay. So that means there's no such thing as just having a resume. You have a resume for a particular job, but not one resume for all jobs. Now, the secret to basically writing your resume or to get interviews with your resume is to target your resume and tailor it to the job. Let me say that again. Target your resume and tailor it to the job. That means you address the needs from the job posting, and then you highlight your accomplishments and your results to show that you're a good fit for that job. Now, this is a lot harder to do because you have to write a resume every time for every position. But I think that you don't change the whole resume. You just change some of your accomplishments. You may change some of the skill sets based off the job posting. You may change your objective. You may highlight 1 or 2 sentences a little differently that kind of makes you look like the right person for the job. So it'll take you a little bit of time, but it won't take you a tremendous amount of time to tailor it. One thing to make note, though, is tailoring your resume increases your probability of getting an interview by 80%. So might be worth your time, okay? So when you tailor your resume, just keep in mind, it basically tells the employer why they should hire you. Simple concept, again, is that the job posting under the descriptions is saying that I need a person that can host parties on a consistent basis. Well, your accomplishment statements are going to say things like, in your experience, hosted over 25 events with a A+ quality rating from its customers. Well, you're basically highlighting why they should hire you and how you solve the problems they have. All right. So picking the best format. When picking a format, you'll see different types of resumes: chronological, combination, functional, which we'll talk about shortly. The key to picking the best format, again, is your research. Okay. Find out what does your industry usually do when it comes to your format. I would say don't pick what you think is nice. Pick what the industry perceives as the right format. Okay. The best way to do that is Google, marketing resume samples and start looking at trends, or look at how are most of them written and what do they look like, so that you make sure that you're very similar in that. Okay. Now with formatting, you have combination resume. Combination resume is a widely used format that a lot of people like to use. It's basically chronological as well as functional, which means I'm in my experience section, I'm highlighting what I've done in a chronological order from most recent down, okay? Then the functional is I'm highlighting my skills that I've accomplished, okay? Chronological resumes they flow easy, they showcase your growth, and they're a lot easier to prepare. Some of the disadvantages is that if you have gaps in employment, it could bring that out. If you change jobs often, let's say every 2 years, every year, it will show those things, which could be a disadvantage. It emphasizes on employment, but not skills developed. Okay. And then, so with chronological, the ideal is to highlight the skill sets based off the job posting up above. And then you want to highlight what you've done or your accomplishments in the experience section in the chronological order. Now, something to think about on a combinational resume, especially if you're a transition service member, you want to highlight the company, which is U.S. Navy, the job title, and location and dates. If you've been in the Navy your whole career, what you can do is that you can start the experience section with United States Navy 1996 to 2018. Okay, and then you would say your job title. So your job title is not your rank. It's basically what did you do? Logistics manager, Hawaii, and then the dates you had that position. So your location will be your city or state versus base. Okay, and we'll kind of go into that when we get into formatting. All right. We said that most specific, use numbers and figures. Functional resume. Functional resume is a resume format that I will not recommend you to use. Functional resume just highlights your skill sets and how you've accomplished those skill sets. So let's say the job posting says, you highlighted all the skills needed, and then you would just say, let's say a skill set is that they're looking for would be marketing. Well, you would write 3 accomplishments of how you were a great marketer, or cross-functional teams, how you work with cross-functional teams, or communication, how you've done great communication, right? But it doesn't tell me what company you work for. It doesn't tell me how long. It doesn't tell me any of that. It emphasizes your skills rather than the employment. It doesn't tell you, it doesn't tell the employer if it was paid or unpaid. And then it doesn't allow the employer to know that you have gaps, okay? But the disadvantage of a functional resume, especially coming out of a recession, is it is suspicious to some employers. So if you think about it, when the economy was down, there was a lot of people unemployed. They would start applying with functional resumes to hide that they were unemployed. Well, just like with anything, people don't want to hire people that haven't worked in a while. So I would be very cautious of using a functional resume. And remember, again, one size doesn't fit all, okay? So then you have, we said combination, chronological. I think we talked about the chronological resume, which is basically highlighting your skill sets in chronological order. So components of the resume, right? You have an objective section, you have your education section, you have your experience section, you may have your skills section. We're going to talk about these components and some insights that you need to be aware of. Okay, and then basically help you with thinking about how to write these sections. Okay, sections should be 1 or 2 words, like experience, areas of expertise, education, and they should be bolded on your resume, if didn't say that before. So the objective statement, right? Your objective statement is designed to tell me the objective of your resume. It should be short, concise, to the point. All right. The objective statements, a mistake that people make with objective statements is they'll say, seeking a position with an organization that will allow me to grow and develop in a Fortune 500 company. That is not how an objective statement should be written. Objective statement should be written in a way for me to know what is the objective of the resume. So it could be as simple as seeking a position as logistics manager with Coca-Cola. If you don't know who the company is, you say seeking a position in logistics, and just leave it like that. That is the only point of the objective statement, is to basically target what you're looking for, what position with what company. That's all it's designed to. Do not do the mistake that you'll see on a lot of sample resumes of, seeking a position to prosper and grow and all of that stuff. It should be short, and to the point. Okay. Again, objective statement highlights the job and the company. Very simple and short, easy to do. Okay. I would also say that if you have more than 10 years of experience, I wouldn't necessarily use an objective statement, but however you think is best. Now, the skills section, this is a section that I've always enjoyed. On a combinational resume, which is what? Chronological and functional, you can take the skill sets that are on the job posting and bulletize them on your resume. So ideally, you want to have 9 columns of 3, which will allow your resume to look full. All right. And you may go down 3 skills per line. So 9 to 12 max of your skill sets. And so you want to have 1-word skill sets that the job posting is looking for. And you could call them different things. Area of expertise. Some people call them summary of qualifications. So you may have words like accounting, customer service, self-motivated, honest, drafting, management, programming. Or you may have like process improvement, company relations, negotiations, top secret clearance. If you know that they're looking for a clearance, you may put that. The other thing to think about in this section is if I was going to create 3 columns of bullets, make sure your bullets to your left are the most important, because people read left to right, and make sure the one on top are the most important. Okay. But a great section to really highlight those skill sets. Then you have the summary section. Summary section should basically summarize who you are based off of the job posting, right? So your summary section should highlight your knowledge, your skills, and what do you bring to the table in a sense, okay? Now, the summary section should only be 3 sentences, which is a misperception for most people that write your summary. The summary should basically talk about who you are relating to the job. Okay. Now, I usually say when you have your job posting, look at certain things and certain wording. Like if they're saying we're looking for a energetic, positive person that loves working with kids. Well, you can spin those components and write your summary section. You don't use the word but you may say accomplished, motivator, accomplished salesperson that is self-motivated, that loves to work with kids and inspire them to move in the right direction of their career. Okay, you want to kind of talk about who you are in relation to the job. Experience section. That is probably the most important part of the resume. As you can probably imagine, the experience section is where you're telling the employer what makes you qualified for this position. Okay. So in the experience section, you write what we call accomplishment statements, right? Accomplishment statements is telling the employer what was the problem, what action, and what were the results, or what was the action plus the benefit, what was the results. And that's where you're going to highlight what did you do. Okay. You want to, you may in this part talk about how did you accomplish the duties on the job posting. So if the job posting is asking for a certain skill set, you want to talk about what you've done, how you did it, and what were the results of you doing that. And that's the basic keys of writing a resume. You want to, in your results section, you want to use numbers, right? You want to use percentages. You want to use stats, okay? You don't use the word I. Make sure you do not use the word responsible for. Responsible for is not a action verb. So anytime you're writing your accomplishment statement, please remember that the sentence always starts with a action verb, okay? I would say Google action verbs for resumes, all right? Managed, facilitated, trained, developed, scheduled, provided, participated. You want to use verbs to start your accomplishment statements and then talk about what you did, how you did it, and what were the results. Now, keep in mind, those are not sentences on a non-federal resume. They are just like multiple sentences. They should be usually one sentence to describe that. Supervised and elevated up to 75 troops. So you may also think about using vocabulary that relates to the industry. Also make sure that you, if you have a strong background in the military, figuring out how to phrase what you've done where the non-government can understand what you've done, okay? And which is the hardest thing to do when writing a resume, being in the government for so long, okay? So you want to speak their language, describe things the way they describe it, all right, based off the industry and the job posting, and then try to rephrase your wording so that they can understand it. Okay, your education section, in this part, you just write what school, what degree, when did you graduate, or are you presently in school? That's all you need for your education. You can always highlight if you had over a 3.5, you can highlight that. Sometimes you can highlight what courses may be relevant. You know, now something I want you to remember, there's a difference between education and certifications. Okay, education means that you went to a institution of higher learning. Certification means you were certified. So I would split those up. Do not put in education, highlight your certifications, if that makes sense. Now with your education, if you're in school and your education is what's getting you into the new career field. So let's say you got out of the military, you're in school for accounting, and you're about to graduate looking for an accountant job. Well, your education section needs to move up in your resume, probably before your experience section, so that it tells the employer immediately that you're in school and you're about to graduate with this type of education or certification. If education is required for the job, you may put it higher up on your resume as well, so that they know that, you know, you have a degree. I mean, it's like, again, resumes are subjective. Everyone has an opinion, you know, so you just kind of have to take insights from different places and figure out what do you think is best. Okay. Now, you're going to update your resume often. There's never one resume. I would say as you get a job, make sure that you keep your evals or keep your performance reviews so that it's easier for you to update your resume. Now, something to also think about if you're in the military right now or probably got out, to start your resume, my recommendation is to spend some time creating a master resume. And your master resume is telling me, or telling yourself really, everything you've ever done. So you just take a piece of paper and talk about every accomplishment you've ever had. So you go look at your evals, you go look at any of your successes, and you just write those things down. And then when it's time to target your resume, you pull things from your master resume to help you write it. The hardest thing ever in which some of you guys are probably going through now, is thinking about what did you do 6 years ago? What did you do 5 years ago? And so this would just help you kind of figure that out, okay? Have a working document or a live document to help you write your resumes moving forward, okay? Your electronic resumes is basically taking your resume, putting it into a Word doc. Some will tell you that they don't recommend you turning that Word doc into a PDF. I always say that if you're going to send an employer your resume electronically, you know, if you feel that the employer is going to do something to your resume and you got to make it a PDF, then you probably shouldn't work for that company anyway. Okay, there's nothing on your resume that should be of concern to worry. All right. Again, if you need any help with your resume, please go to your support on the base. Please go to other organizations in your market to help you with that. This was a brief, very brief overview of resume writing, and please let us help you in any way if you need some support. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your service. Hopefully this was helpful to you, and we look forward to seeing you at our events.